let's have our prayer by Commissioner White and our pledge by Commissioner Smallridge. Everyone would stand, please.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this great privilege that we have to help conduct the county business. We ask you to bless each one that's in the room. We ask you to bless our country. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Hopefully our chair will be here soon. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Mays,
here.
Commissioner Palmer,
Here.
Commissioner Vandegrift,
Here.
Commissioner Val, running late, Commissioner White,
Here?
Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Beauchamp, absent, and Commissioner Smallridge.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. This is our time for appearance of citizens. Is there anyone that would like to address county or the budget committee? Any citizens out there? All right, moving on. Let's have an approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to add the letter from Mayor Frank regarding the dental clinic to under the new business under C, section C.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passed. Okay, Robbie,
Okay.
purchasing, contracts, and legal review.
Okay, we have two contracts that are, have been approved for legal review. Lamar Tourism contract, which is a billboard rental agreement, and the State Department of Homeland Security, which is a grant for the Sheriff's Department.
All right. Motion for approval.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second. I have a quick
Any
question.
questions?
Robbie, has C been reviewed since this has been out? The pending legal review,
The third one?
has
Yes.
it has been reviewed now?
Yes, it has been. But he had some minor changes right there to it, but nothing major, but it has been, yes.
I would just ask if maybe they would add it to as a group.
All right, so amend the motion to include A, B, and C. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, also under section D, there's 3 sheriff vehicles that are, they're asking to surplus. 2009 Victoria and 2015 Dodge Chargers, 2 of those. Starting bids at $300.
All right, a motion to surplus these vehicles.
Motion to approve?
All right, second.
Second.
I've got a first by Commissioner Smallridge, second by Commissioner Allen. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Next.
Okay, the cash and fund balance report. I'm just gonna try to tell you, it's on page 32 of your, in the upper left-hand corner. For the general fund, restricted funds, I will also say our audit has been completed. These are not exactly audited numbers because I'm still checking balances. We still have a couple of audit entries to make audit adjustments. The schools are reviewing theirs at this time. We just finished this last week. So by commission meeting, we should have a possibly audited, and I might change it and put a new one in the commission agenda, but most of these are correct. There's just a couple of questions on a couple of the funds. So I just wanted to, audit has been completed though, so.
All right.
Anyway, the general fund line restricted funds are at 2.2 million, committed funds 518,537, assigned funds 4.5 million, unassigned fund balance 11,671,780 for a total fund balance of 19,037,291. Cash 17,880,381, which is up almost 2 million from, almost 3 million from October last year. So, but do keep in mind, EMS has moved to the general fund, their cash is in ours. And,
Okay.
as well as their revenue this year is in ours too, so. The general, the school, general purpose school line, committed, or their fund balance, 11.3 million, cash 9.7 million. And each fund obviously has their fund balance and their cash listed there on the right for, each of the funds in the county,
All right.
if you ever wanted to know that.
Any questions or discussion on that? All right, moving on.
Okay, the sales tax report for September. The county, 4.2 million, 17.3% more than last September. And the county portion, $512.25 is up 3% from last September. So, good sales tax numbers for this month.
Awesome. Okay.
Wonder what that's attributed to.
Yeah, well, the out-of-state this month was 40,000 more. Most of them are about the same, so,
That's awesome.
well, I'm looking at last month compared to last month, I'm sorry. In September, it was Oak Ridge, it was 2.5 this year, and they went about 600,000, so, feels right.
You tried to tell you.
All right, moving on.
Okay, the ARPA projects report, I put 2 different reports in here, and the reason being, we have since found, some of these things change a lot, some of the rules. We have found out interest for, and if I explain this wrong, Randy and John both are here, but the interest we have earned on the ARPA funds don't really necessarily have to be spent on, committed by this year, the end of this year, or spent on anything. We can move it to any fund. So, and that's 323,000. So we're already dipping into interest with our commitment. So we still have 268,388.41 left in interest that is uncommitted of ARPA funds. So if we didn't ever want to commit anything else, we don't have to, right? That we have interest from last month, so we don't get that until, so 284 in interest, that 284,000. That really doesn't have to be, we don't have to rush into any kind of decision or.
Can that be moved into like
It can,
a capital, a restricted capital
It
code or
could.
something like?
yes.
So how much of this does need to be committed by the end of this year?
We already have everything committed that I think
Everything is committed?
that we need to commit.
Probably over.
Now, we don't have, I still don't have a PO for the digital poll books from Mr. Stevens. He did send one over requisition, and I asked one of the workers in our office to go over there and asked him if he was okay with it. He said he wanted to look at it. He still hasn't brought it back to us. So. We did have an election, though. He's been kind of busy.
Yeah, real busy.
So are any questions on this? Okay. The grant inventory list is just a report of grants for this fiscal year. We did add the 4 at the bottom. From,
All right.
Yeah, Robbie, are you saying we can move into any of the projects that we have here? Is it limited to the projects that are already listed?
The interest amount is not. We can use that for virtually anything. I still think debt service is restricted on that. We could even use it for that.
what we're saying is you can move it to any fund in the county,
Yeah.
like 101, you can move it to the 151 fund, 141, not one, I mean, you could, but we don't want to give them any money.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. They had their own ARPA funds.
Any other questions or comments?
Sorry.
go ahead.
Sorry. So like you mentioned the poll, whatever, Mark Stevens.
Poll books, yes.
So have that amount Does that still have the December deadline for him to execute?
Yes.
And if he doesn't, does that amount specifically go back to the Treasury?
And we've had this, as you can see, the very far right column, that amount was approved August of '22. So,
Great.
So we're about to lose that.
no, I think he will get it. He really wants these poll books.
I can tell.
So, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not my job to, we just had a huge election, so that's what I'm trying to,
But this was approved in August of '22.
this funding was one of the first approvals that we made for the,
And I'm not gonna beat it, I guess I am beating the dead horse, but, and this is a department that has pretty much autonomy on, well, they have some state regulations, but in terms of county regulations, I mean, for him to take this long really is just because he's took this long, not because he's had to go through any actual process that our county department heads have to go through.
he doesn't really have to use her first.
And then I get we have an election, I mean, it was a very big election. But the mayor also has all kinds of things that she has to attend to as well. So does Nathan, so does the sheriff. You know, I just don't think it's an excuse to say, well, we had a big election in '24. I'm not gonna take care of business for 2 years. You know, I just think it's another example of just, you know, falling asleep at the wheel, but that's just my opinion. And maybe this will help him get the results out quicker.
Well, I will get an updated commission. Because if he hasn't, and done it by then, I think maybe we should recommit the funds, to something,
I don't know
So-
why we don't even entertain that now. I mean,
that's up to you all.
What's the
But-
drop dead date?
December, see, would have to move those. that
we told John
100,000.
Vickery no on, has he gotten all the vehicles that he wanted? I'm sure John Vickery would have these things PO'd out and ready to be spent long before 2 years ago. And Mark continues to drag his feet. He just decides what's more important for him. So,
Chairman?
Yes.
What's the drop dead date?
For committed with a purchase order is December of 2024, December 31st. So we have, but for the county commission to reappropriate funds if they're not committed, we only have this meeting and next meeting. So, you know, we're running this, after this month, we only have December, and then we're talking, we might have 9 days to get a purchase order. You know, sometimes when it's a larger amount, you have to get quotes or bids, and so, for other departments. So I don't know, it's just harder to get that kind of funding committed in 9 days, once it goes through county commission approval, which it would have to, it's kind of thing.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, could we make a motion to recommit those funds, send it to county commission this month, and then if they've been appropriate, if we get a requisition, a PO in place, by the time county commission rolls around, then we can do away with that recommendation?
Yes.
Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
You're not really talking about committing it to something else, just,
no, I would, okay, I'm sorry.
you're talking about it just possibly, well, I don't,
I'm just saying, make a motion to recommit the funds.
you can do.
I would, Madam, are you still,
No,
Yes, I
it's-
am. When y'all start talking, I'll gladly hand the gavel over.
I would like to make a, Madam Chair, if I can.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we reallocate those funds to Mr. Vickery's, department and allow him to purchase whatever vehicles. I know that's, the mayor's probably thinking, why are you doing this? But, I think that he's had needs for a long time, and, this is, how much is it, 100,000?
100,000.
Yeah, help him chip away at that.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Mays to reallocate the $100,000 to,
Fleet,
what department would that be?
fleet management.
Fleet
services.
management. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yes,
Do I have a second? Commissioner Smallridge, second.
Yeah, and
Or a
what?
question? Are you making a second?
No, I was not.
Okay, let me get a second.
Okay.
before we have
I'll
discussion.
second so we can
Thought you
discuss.
Okay, I have a second by Commissioner Vandegraff. Any discussion?
You know, Robbie, what were these funds to be used for? Refresh my memory.
He, at first, I think we set him aside for maybe, I'm thinking, to help with voting machines at the beginning. Then he got a grant. All the election offices were given a grant to buy voting machines with. So he wanted to buy poll pads, which I think is something you come into a voter, you check in through your poll pad, verify your address.
I was thinking this was like the machines, like actual, these big white cabinet things. No?
It's my understanding, it's, when you go in to vote, it's an electronic other than a paper, where they look your name up, and what's your name, they look up your name. It's a digital, it's a computer that they can bring up your name and your voting information. Yes, Commissioner Allen?
Yeah, what will happen to those poll pads? Will they just have to be recommitted later on? Will he not get them because we're gonna move the money over to fleet management?
Well, he would have to come back again and ask for additional funding if he wanted to purchase those, if we took this 100,000 away. If he's still wanted to get those, I'm assuming he does. I mean, I don't communicate a lot with the election office, so, but if this money was reallocated then, and he still wanted funding, he would have to come to this committee and ask for it. Because he doesn't have that in his budget, obviously.
Yeah, and then he'll probably be reprimanded for not having it done in a couple of years. It's been 2 years out there. And we would ask him, why didn't he do it 2 years ago?
Well, I mean, that would be a way to get him here to ask.
Commissioner Mays?
Yeah, I would just, knowing that we've got, and the purpose, a little bit of the purpose behind this is knowing that we've got $268,000 that we now know that is accumulated interest that is not tied to anything and that doesn't have to be spent by December. So there's still a fund of money that's out there that he can come in front of this body. And if he's so busy, that gives him more than 60, more time to get together what he needs. But we know that there's a need, and that I'm confident that John would purchase a vehicle, or at least do what he needed to do between now and December 15th to take care of this. That makes sure that we don't lose $100,000 to the Treasury, but we still have $268,000 that will go into whatever account we decide as a body that Mark can then come right back in here and ask for. So I don't, maybe I did sound like I was frustrated with him, and I am, but it's not punitive to him. I mean, we're not taking away just any opportunity for him to get this money.
I'd also like to say just really quickly too, that the letter that we've added to new business is an additional request for funding for the health department project that we already have $500,000 of ARP funds committed to. The bids came in, but they were slightly higher than, so that's an opportunity too. That,
Yes.
Yeah, this, I guess we're saying this wouldn't have any immediate or short range or long range impact on elections.
I can't really comment on that, but I would just think we had one of the largest elections we've had in years, probably the most voters, and we didn't need them then.
And
I don't think we have a scheduled election again for quite some time. 26 is the next big one, 2026.
Any other discussion? We understand the motion on the floor is to reallocate the $100,000 to fleet management. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Please note that the chairman is here, and I gladly hand over the gavel. I'm so glad to see you.
Want to thank Commissioner Palmer for taking care of that. I thought I left Maribel plenty enough time, but I neglected to consider the Claxton rush hour traffic. So,
We're booming.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
apologize for my tardiness. We are now on, if I'm correct, the consent agenda.
Yes, we already talked about grant reports, so. The consent agenda is budget amendments 1 through 7. There are a few of those from the school as well. Seeking approval as a group. Be happy to answer any questions. As Marcus is here, as well representing the schools, if you have any about those.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve as group.
Commissioner Vandergrift moves to approve items 1 through 7. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and 8 through 12 are also from the school department. They are 2 transfers that affect major line items and 4 appropriations. 3 appropriations, I'm sorry.
Move to approve as a group.
Commissioner Mays moves to approve items 8 through 12 as a group. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion?
I have a couple of questions, please.
Commissioner Palmer.
On number 8, it's to purchase a district vehicle. Is that in addition to the one we already have a purchase order for?
Marcus?
Okay, all right. And then, and that's just for that Office of Technology Department? Okay. And then one other question. This one is special education, number 12. Could you just explain, just for information, this part-time, needing a part-time delivery person in 2 vehicles?
Yes, ma'am. That is out of the funds that they generate for services, for fees.
Come up here, yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I meant to ask that already. Apologies. It's my understanding from the special ed department on these items that with the number of records, things that they have, 2 and 4, that they need someone to take those records on a very part-time basis. They've had that position in the past, and so they wanted to allocate funds to do that. And then also for vehicles for transporting students, especially with those with special needs that need those things.
Okay.
Is what those are for. But those are all generated out of funds that are generated by the special ed department for services that they render to special education students
Okay.
that they
All right.
that they do that.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is a part-time delivery person of records and such.
Record supplies,
Okay.
whatever they need. There's with special education departments, there are certain special supplies that students need at individual schools, certain special curriculums. So to get those
Okay,
where they need to be as they come in.
all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, highway, I messed this up on the agenda. It's 13 through 15. There's 3 highway budget amendments. All 3 appropriations. And one is from insurance recovery. It is money that we have already received for a repair for a dump truck.
Do we have a motion? Commissioner Vandergrift moves to approve items 13 through 15. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Palmer. Any discussion?
I love the detail on
Yeah.
the
Yes,
requisitions.
yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and number 16 is from our tourism department, $5,000 from their committed funds for, to code 799, for a, tourism developmental project that was approved and committed in fiscal year '24, but was not processed for payment until this year. The project was a greenway development plan with the city of Norris. I attached the minutes and
Okay.
from their committee meeting.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Vandergrift moves to approve item number 16. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, number 17 is from the Sheriff's Department. It is increasing revenue for law enforcement training program, $42,400, and putting in the payroll code, bonus and retention payments. It's Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance and the Tennessee Peace Officers Standards Training. It's from those departments. For each eligible officer will receive $800 retention bonus payment if their 2023 in service hours are completed and still employed.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mays to approve item number 17. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Vandergrift. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and the last budget amendment is from the Finance Department, from our Grant Department. It's moving the TDEC funds, ARP funds, into this fiscal year, $3,426,779.39.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve item number 18. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and under Section A, Mayor Frank has a memo in about water updates, and I'll let her speak to that as well.
Mayor Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first one is just an update. This is coming out of Operations Committee to investigate waterline options for resident Otis Phillips and family and one of the churches. Director Holbrook may want to speak to the big adventure that he and Randy had as they tried to get to the house and ended up on
Not even telling.
on ATV trails
Oh, I've got
instead.
No, we went, in my car, it took me that way. Me and Randy were off-road in my car, and I said, Randy, I'm not going any farther. I'll just have to tell the mayor we can't make the meeting. But we were on the wrong road. We made it. We're like the city.
Well, I do appreciate Director Holbrook and Deputy Director Randy Walters going out there on behalf of the county. I could not be there. But they did get a quote that's included in your package. One of the requirements is you do have to be able to maintain that system. So I have reached out to the Water Authority to see if the president and the board are willing to do that. Also, Robbie indicated that there is still preference for a water line instead of that system by the folks that were on site. And so Robert Campbell and Associates did say that he would put together another official estimate. So I just wanted you to be aware that we've still got a little bit more questions out there, but it is a work in progress, and I wanted you to have those quotes. And then the other one is just kind of a briefing. We are out to bid currently on the CDBG, and it closes towards the end of the month. We have had to downsize this project considerably. We ran into rock. We had to cut a portion of the project out, even downsized. The lowest bid came in at $3 million. We have downsized again. It's still looking like, with the estimates, that even with the $450,000 the county set aside, it's still going to exceed the budget. So I just wanted you to be aware. We'll have a decision to make in December. Once I get those bids in, we'll either need to decide to just cut the project and then reallocate those funds at the December budget meeting, or increase the funds for this project. It is down to about 50 homes that are Judson Lane, Hines Creek. I mean, there still is very much value in doing this. I mean, you have the inflation, monetary inflation, but really what we have seen with the water lines and the sewer line projects is the cost of construction increases and all the materials. And you had the federal infrastructure, you had ARP, you have TDEC, you have all these projects going on. And so you've just seen a lot of escalation. So we are working, the ACWA worked with Hallsdale Powell. Hallsdale already has some lines out there, so the majority of this project has moved to Hallsdale. So we are working with Hallsdale to see if there are some things that they can do in-house to lower the cost. So we might be able to minimize any additional funding. ACWA, even though a majority is no longer going to be served by them, they're still, I've talked to Director Clowers, and they're still going to dig deep and see if they can do some things in kind that might also be able to lower the cost. So we're still working on it. We still want to get it done. We've been working on it a long time, and I know the folks in that area want it. And providing service to 50 people also opens up that property for other, folks to build out there as well with water. So I just wanted you to be aware of both of these items, give you a status on the wells, because I know, that was a referral from operations, and then what's happening with CDBG.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions for the mayor on those issues?
So we don't need to take any action on just the water at this point?
Anything else on that? All right. Next item is the library appropriation and Commissioner Josh Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and not sure if I'll need action on anything today. Just wanted to bring it to the committee's attention and just get clarification since we've got our regional library director here from the state. You might have the penny numbers for us. I guess when we passed the 24-25 budget, we voted to switch the penny rate for EMS and for the libraries.
Just for a timeline of events, so in fiscal year 23, budget year 23-24, the budget committee and commission froze the library's tax collections at 526,484. They decided anything collected over that would go roll into to the general fund. But in 24-25, they decided the budget committee wanted to switch EMS and library, their budget, the allocation for the pennies, which was, the libraries was 0.0258 and EMS's was 0.0212, so we switched those. So that caused a shortage in the funding for the library as far as tax appropriation. We did fund the library budget though as in full with fund balance. And that was like a $90,000 difference. Now part of the I will say this too, in all fairness, we are on our last year of reappraisal. We've discussed this a lot of times in budget committee. There is an equalization ratio. We're down to we're losing a lot of money because of that tax property money because of the ratio, which will go back to 100% next year when we get reappraised. So their numbers will come up some next year, even with the cut. Everybody's numbers were down. Even the general fund, every fund, and we had a deficit budget in every fund in our budget book except maybe two. So, and it's because of the tax levy and the equalization ratio. But that's what happened in budget season. That was not a secret. That was all in your budget, in the commission minutes, and budget committee obviously was well aware. But anything that happens in budget committee goes to full commission that same month. And budget, so I just wanted to make it clear that wasn't trying to be kept because it wasn't that huge of an amount anyway. We're talking, it's less than a half a penny. So
I guess the clarification, since we're in MOE season right now with the state, so to make up the difference with the fund balance, is that the general fund that would be, or would it be the library board's fund balance?
To make up the funds in the fund balance?
Or to offset since we switched the penny value, so we've got a $85,000.
Well, the fund balance made up the funds, and the library fund balance, I gave you all a handout tonight, is 371,000, 344, which is basically more than half their budget, which that's a very large fund balance for GFOA best practices is what we go by. At least 2 months, but for sure 3 months, and we're even above that. So I think they're safe in using that, and the state approves all of our budgets. And one thing they do look at is if we have enough fund balance, if we're in a deficit budget, if the fund balance is, on par with what we're asking for, and that one is. I think even losing, and for example, on this printout, Josh, I didn't give you one of these. Last year, the library had $11,707 budget deficit. But when audit numbers came in, our final audit numbers this month, we had a surplus in spending, revenue over spending of $16,342. It doesn't always mean, those are estimates, budget estimates in expenditures and revenue. So it doesn't always mean that we're going to lose money. We probably will in 90,000, but last year's a good example of where we had a deficit budget, but we ended the fiscal year with a surplus that added to their fund balance. And I would like to say this too, the 371, 344 fund balance has been built over many years, and that's due to partial spending control, but also revenues being more than expenditures, property taxes increasing every year. The county has increased their library contribution every year since the beginning, except this year it went down for the first time. We have had the cities have been $130,311 for 15 years now, and have not increased one. And I kind of think that was the budget committee's cry for, we'd like the cities to contribute more. It's not just the county's responsibility to beat the maintenance of effort, it's the cities as well. So, of course, they're not lowering theirs. The county could freeze theirs and never increase it. And I'm not saying this because I honestly don't have, but if we froze what if we froze ours 12 years ago at 400,000 and the cities were at 130, where would we be now with a $530,000 and a $688,000 budget?
Well, I guess my concern with our fund balance, since we have frozen it, the fund balance is probably not going to grow, and it's definitely not going to grow if we make up the 90,000 amount. So just going forward, are we going to just making the budget committee aware? Will we kind of keep funding the library at the current level? And I'm sure there'll be discussions with the cities if they want to contribute more, but they are contributing to buildings and the upkeep of the buildings, which has increasing costs too. But
I do agree it's not sustainable. There won't be a fund balance if we did this 3 years, it's gone. Well, no,
right.
You're right.
That's what I'm worried about.
It's not sustainable. And I do think we'll have more tax collections next year. I did speak to Jamie Ritter, is that the Tennessee librarian? Yeah, and who he talked on the phone right before this meeting, and he told me even a county could request waivers. They try to work with the counties so they meet the maintenance of effort, and he doesn't think that'll be a problem for us either as well this year anyway. So.
Come on.
A waiver really is if the overall budget has gone down for the county and it's got to show that you've decreased, and this isn't up to me, it's up to the state librarian and Secretary Hargett. But typically a waiver is you've got to show that all departments were cut by an equal percent and that the libraries weren't cut at a greater percent than any other budget. So I'm not sure if a waiver would really apply in this situation, but that would be a decision above my pay grade.
Commissioner Mason.
I have a quick question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robbie, next year, we felt that across the board in terms of not having, we balanced a lot of things last year with different fund balances, et cetera. But I'm not gonna hold you to it, but ballpark, how much more money in tax revenue do you think that will bring?
Over $2 million. We, really a ratio, we at least lost over 2 million. They gave us the totals, but I've honestly
What do you
forgotten.
think in terms of, I know it's, but like, if we could like make a percentage of that, like how much of that do you think would go into that library fund that,
15 to 20,000, honestly.
okay,
If, I'm guessing.
yeah.
And we didn't cut any libraries. We didn't cut a library budget. We just balanced it with fund balance. So what they asked for, they got as far as their budget goes, the 666,000, that was the request from the libraries. And we did fund that budget. We just didn't, we decreased the tax revenue. The revenues were less this year than they have been in the past because of the switch from the EMS to the,
So if that be the case, then Josh, the concern is,
Well, just the sustainability, that since the budget's frozen and we sometimes have had to fund the county-approved pay raises from the fund balance, just in 3 or 4 years, we won't have a fund balance
so you're
for the
just
library.
concerned
So
we may
that's-
not be able to do that again
Right.
next year and the next year and
Right.
the next year.
Right, and I know we don't know what the penny value is gonna be then
Yeah.
either, but.
And I'll add that a few years ago, I advised the board treasurer, Susan Maselli, who was really on top of this kind of stuff, to to use the fund balance that that had gone up some, because you don't want it to sit so high. And the library directors had all kinds of special projects, and they spent it easily. And I think it just hadn't been looked at in a little while, and the amounts have gone up, so that's why your fund balance has gone up to that kind of level. But that isn't to say that the libraries could not use that money. So
much does the-
that's another part of it.
How much would you say on it? Again, I won't hold you to this number, but how much would you say in a dollar amount does the state contribute to the Anderson County Library Services?
I would have to come up with calculations for that. It's, I'd need to get back to you.
Not even do you have a ballpark by,
Well, a lot of ours, like what Josh forwarded you all about what the state provides the libraries, isn't just that $20,000 in materials funds. It's all the books that the state has purchased in the past, which is about a third of your collections. It's consultation and professional consultation from myself and the rest of the regional staff. It's continuing education. You know how school teachers have continuing professional development every year. We provide all of that for the libraries every year.
has everybody got that certification that you're referencing?
Well, no, that's actually, and that's every year they do
Okay.
training. We have a training plan every year.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, Mariah has a master's degree in library science, and Daphne and Kelly and Kimberly all have their Public Library Management Institute certificate.
Cool.
It's a 3-year program
Yeah.
through the State Library and Archives. But it also includes your tech support. So some of these things don't have an exact dollar amount, but it's like our staff and what we do. Like, we keep your computers running, the public and the staff computers, your networking, all that kind of stuff is handled by regional and state staff. Also includes READS, which is ebook and audiobooks, which is, state invests a few $1 million every year in that program, and that's something also that benefits Oak Ridge residents as well, because they don't have this massive ebook and audiobook collection. Everybody that's reading on their Kindles and all that kind of thing, that's really a big part of circulation now. So that's something that the state provides, and if that was taken away, all of that would be taken away as well. So
Why do they not have that ability, Oak Ridge?
Oak Ridge, they've got some, but it just costs a lot.
They're not a member of the state library.
Oh, right.
Or- so-
They're not part of the regional system, so those city residents have to come get a county card at Clinton or one of the other libraries in order
So
to
what is the
access.
subscription rate for that?
It's not a subscription rate. It's not like an individual, like you can get on and just pay just a subscription rate.
Mhm.
We have to, kind of like the libraries build a collection every year with a certain budget, and they fill their walls and their shelves with all of these materials. The same thing happens with electronic books. We build a collection and we have to buy books. So like, just a little less, an ebook, just because you can duplicate it, doesn't mean the publishers are going to let 100 people just read it. We've got to buy it each, each time it's like a copy, and you only get a certain amount of uses. So it's not a subscription thing, but the investment over years and also the annual investment is a lot.
So you only make that available to people that or libraries that are part of that region?
Part of the regional system, and that's all libraries pretty much in the state, besides a few independent libraries like Oak Ridge, and then the major metros, Knoxville, Chattanooga, Nashville, Memphis. They're big enough to do their own thing.
Commissioner Allen?
Yeah. When it comes to the technology, it seems like there's some redundancy there. You have your library that can do the networking. You also have a IT department here. What is special about how the state is doing it, and how come we can't do this in-house when it comes to the technology portion of it?
Most counties don't have necessarily an in-house tech person, and if they, sometimes just somebody who's on staff in the courthouse who's taking care of things.
We have that here.
I don't know the answer of whether you could provide that yourselves well or not. They provide quite a bit of technology assistance, and they know kind of the software.
Like the state does, you saying the state provides that library assistance?
Like
What is
desktop
it?
support and network services support, so.
That's the state, you're saying the state provides that?
Right, when I say state, the regional library is under the state, so.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got 2 people out of our office that cover a 9-county region.
When you guys have a problem, who takes care of that? Does our department take care of that, or do you have these 2 guys come in and fix something for you?
We have a tech helpline and an email, and then you just, the librarians submit, hey, my network is down, or my computer isn't working, or, so on and so forth. And then they'll call, or they'll do a virtual thing, or they'll come out and visit, that kind of thing.
Do our guys ever come out there and help when you can't get one of your guys?
That's a good question. I don't,
Huh, excuse me?
sometimes they
They
might
have before?
advise with the,
They've used our IT department before.
they might communicate with them.
I don't know that Ron knew that they had other options though, when he went to help, so. We might not have helped them recently, but we have in the past.
Yeah.
But it's a really solid service, like, they love being able to, they get instant service, and it's a really great benefit.
Commissioner May?
Just in terms of the services that you guys provide, if the cities do increase their contributions and it gets us to a point of sustainability, is the regional library, Anderson County, are they still punished with services if?
That's ultimately a Secretary Hargett decision.
Okay.
And it's possible that if cities increase their contributions, that could make up for the difference.
Okay,
But
that's good. Thank you.
that would have to be a good conversation with the cities, and ultimately a decision by Secretary Hargett that, okay, everybody's fine with that and that works well,
Commissioner Paul?
Just a quick, for my information, what is the continuing education requirements for the librarians?
The directors are 25 hours per year, and staff, I think it's 10, well, let's see. Other staff that are over 20 hours per week, they have 10 hours a year that they do, and under 20 hours, 5 hours.
And then do you
So the
have-
directors basically are 25 hours a year of professional
What about for the
development.
board members?
There aren't requirements per se, but we provide annual trustee workshop. Josh and Vicky went to that last year. Vicky went this year. You went this year. Annual trustee workshop at one of the libraries, and we have library trustees from 2 full regions that come, and we have a full day, and the state library staff come out. They also have an online trustee certification through the state library that's good for 6 years, and I tell the trustees it's expected to be done. So.
Okay. And finally, I know that Jamie Ritter reached out to you. I wonder if, I know the mayor's been working on some things, or we had asked her to in operations, I think, maybe, or full commission. Anyway, I wonder if it's something, maybe we could ask the mayor to reach out to Trey Hargett or Jamie Ritter, tell them our situation, what we did, and if there's some sort of, because it's my understanding we don't have any agreement. We don't know where, we don't have anything on paper. So I wonder if we could start from this point, go forward, or, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I do have some drafts. In fact, I talked to Robbie about running it through ChatGPT just to kind of finalize it, and he said I could, Randy, he offered you to assist me. I think, the lack of an agreement is the biggest issue, and, what I'm going to present to you is a draft of another system, and it's with some potential changes to the library board bylaws. But then, we have this, under statute, the library board is a statutory board with, and as you've heard many times, it's independent. It is independent. And what we need to formalize contractually is what the expectations are between Anderson County government financially, the cities, and the library board. And so, as an example, one of the documents that I'm going to give you is how surplus property is handled through the library board in Anderson County. And so we've been just operating so loosely, like everything's running through the county, but we have city buildings. We've got the governance structure is the library board, and then we've got no formal agreement process. And so we also need not just a resolution, we need a contract that can be 5 years or annual through the budget process, however you want to handle it. Like what we're facing today is what is needed in a contract, which is if Anderson County increases funding, there also needs to be agreement by the cities, because, say what happens right now, then who makes it up? We have no formal process. And likewise, if the city of Clinton says we're gonna fund the library at an additional $50,000 for the next 2 years, the county needs to be part of that discussion, because what if that $50,000 goes away and then you have that maintenance of effort? So they don't have to be complicated contracts, but it's just here's the expectations. The capital expenditures, and Robbie can speak more to this in terms of the maintenance of effort, but if we're going to have a joint operation or a joint agreement that is Briceville, which is county-owned, and then City of Clinton, Norris, and Rocky Top, there needs to be a way to formalize those expenditures and the capital. So for instance, you may say the county, in the agreement, and this will be my recommendation, the agreement is that 100% of the capital expenses or maintenance would be paid for Briceville, because that's a county facility. But then the county needs to negotiate what that amount is for Rocky Top in the city of Clinton, because that number may be different. Maybe the county wants to split it 50-50. And that's what we're missing. And so when you don't have a nice agreement, then it kind of leads to some confusion. So I'll be putting that in front of you, just some sample, 3 sample documents that we can build from and have discussions with the library board and the cities.
Okay, so then this maintenance of effort issue for this year can be handled, the library can handle that, and then we can negotiate that with the state, or you can?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think from what Robbie's conversation is, I mean, the budget wasn't cut.
Right.
So the budget that is in the budget book is still their annual budget.
Gotcha.
And it's just that the source funding is coming out of their fund balance. What's not sustainable is, 3 years from now, 3.5 years from now, and I think that's what Commissioner Anderson and is here to draw your attention to.
Okay.
And that could be worked out as we get into what this agreement is with the cities.
Okay.
And it needs to be a city and county agreement. It's not necessarily the library board in the bylaws needs to reference that agreement, but we need to have agreement amongst the cities and the county what we're all
Yeah.
gonna fund.
I agree. Thank you.
Anything else you need to bring up?
So I think the question comes down to whether the fund balance that has gone up over the years, is that considered an appropriation under the MOE that the libraries get to keep? And whether you should still match last year's level instead of taking it from that fund balance? And I think that's the question that we have to our state librarian, and I'm not, and I followed up our conversation this morning, Robbie, with an email to him kind of explaining all of that. So I don't know if he read it yet, or.
He didn't email me back, he called me.
Right.
But he didn't seem to be that concerned about us using fund balance. And he spoke more about if a city or if a county was trying to do away with, the way they would, one of the reasons they would stop funding or take away services from the state is if they saw a county, we're not interested in funding any libraries. In a couple of years, they see that going away, all the funding. So I don't think the county's saying that, our county is. So I don't personally, I'm not at the state level, obviously, think that we have anything to worry about this year. I do think we need to discuss it, and because it's not sustainable, and budget season next year as far as how to handle the library fund. And like the mayor said, an agreement would come a long ways, because, I mean, I think of numbers, it does make me mad that the cities still contribute the same amount and ours has gone up each year. It's like all the maintenance of effort responsibility falls on the county.
I think to the tune of about 80,000, or 80%, I'm sorry. I think the county shoulders 80% of it,
Yeah,
and the city's 20%.
some
So
cities
if I
are,
read
Yeah.
this stack of paper, I think if I'm recalling that correctly.
Yep.
I don't think any action's needed now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion on that issue? If not, moving on, new business.
this is also a mayor, I handed y'all a handout, a little memo from the mayor about the health department,
Thank you.
dental clinic bid opening. I was trying to read that as we go.
It's a dental clinic. So, as I put in the letter, we had a lot of people, a very robust pre-bid meeting on the dental clinic renovations. We had estimated, and you all had set aside $500,000. Once we got the construction documents done, we went to bid. Ultimately, 4 bidders submitted. We had a bid opening yesterday at 2:30, and I have listed the bid amounts below and the number of days to achieve substantial completion. And I would like to be able to go ahead and get this awarded so that we can be under contract by the end of the year. But it would require an additional funding allocation of $104,000 to be able to award the lowest bidder and the quickest completion bidder. So I'm hoping you would do that, increase the ARP funds possibly.
Do we have a motion?
Motion?
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve item number new business C. And if we go with the mayor's request, that will be out of the ARP funds. Commissioner Smallridge, is that your
That
motion?
was, yes.
That is the motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion?
I have a question. What did you say we had left? Two something?
268, plus we earned another 16,000 this 284. We'd like to say too, the dental clinic has grown. We do have we've had the same full-time dentist for a couple of years. We also have a hygienist now, which we haven't had ever until the last year and a half or so. So we are bringing in more revenue from that.
And the new plans will allow us, we'll have another patient room with the new plans. So we will be able to expand services and do more. So it's not just a refresh. This is part of the project. We do have some funds from the state of Tennessee to remodel the health department. And so maybe even for the folks at home, I know many of you all have been through the building, but the dental program is right in the middle of the two state functions of the health department. And so this is going to move the dental clinic down on the end. It will give another patient room, official sign-in desk, do a lot of improvements there for the facility. And then we will move to phase 2, which will be remodeling or doing the renovation on the health department. The state has given us some additional funding. I submitted a request letter today for another $50,000 on the health department side. And then I submitted another request for another 120-some thousand. But they want us, they've indicated positive favor on that request, but they want to see more details. So they want to see the actual construction documents on that and have a little more backup for my request. So I'm working on that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Thank you very much for that, Commissioners.
And
Any more new business?
I'm sorry.
Unfinished business?
Well, the Oak Ridge Boys and Girls Club is on here again, but we have nobody here from.
He's,
Sorry. I was looking for Aaron. We don't have Aaron here, so I don't.
I'd go ahead and make a motion for approval.
Got a motion by Commissioner Mays to approve item number new unfinished business D. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Smallridge.
This
Any
was
discussion?
also coming out of ARP funds, was the original motion, and that's how I put it in the paper as well, so, okay.
Commissioner Palmer?
I have you guys gone to the city of Oak Ridge in Roane County to ask for money for this project?
Yeah, we have not, to my knowledge, and to introduce myself, because I don't think I was at last meeting and then we didn't get to speak, so apologies for that. Alex Myers, I'm taking over for Aaron Webb as a transition as a CEO there. So trying to be as up to speed as I can on this subject. To my knowledge, we have not. This is pretty much a standard nonprofit. To my knowledge, from what I know about Mr. Hahn and Ms. Webb as they have kind of taken the reins, I don't think that they've ever come to Anderson County for anything. That being said, most of the stuff we do is federal or state grants wise is how we get a lot of our funding. To my knowledge, they have not gone to Oak Ridge or Roane County, to my knowledge.
Okay, we have another quote here. So they're asking for $25,000, and we have another quote here that's $23,000 that came in under what they're asking for.
We also asked for a third, we like to get 3 quotes, so.
Okay, so I would like to amend the motion. I would like to fund maybe $10,000, and the reason why is because that would give Oak Ridge and Roane County the opportunity to participate, plus the $25,000 is more than what the quote is. So
I think it's
10,
it's up to 25, I think is what the resolution says.
okay. Well, I just think that the 10,000 is more in line with what nonprofit is giving to the veterans and to the Child Advocacy Center. It kind of is in line with what we've given to some others. So that's why I would like to make an amendment if I can do that.
Motion on the floor is to amend the motion to the amount to be to $10,000. Do we have a second on the amendment? Commissioner Allen seconds the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Mays.
I think just in line with what the amendment is, and I don't want to be out of order here, but I think Commissioner Palmer's right in terms of it's kind of in line with what we have been giving. But I think that we gave them what they asked for. So I think that when CAC asked for that number, we gave them what they asked for, no different than, I think it was the Legion, American Legion. So I think it's just a matter of, would we have given the CAC $22,000 if that was their request? So for me, I appreciate trying to be fair, but I think to be equal is we're just granting their request. So I want to vote no on this amendment.
I don't know, am I allowed to speak?
Go ahead.
I don't know how all this works, sorry. I don't know if everybody has a copy of the two quotes that we were able to get. The second one was a reliable company that we're fairly familiar with, at least Aaron is. If anybody needs to see that, I've got copies. But I don't know if I got a chance to basically tell what this would be for. We are, if anybody doesn't know where we're at, we're basically on the corner of Jefferson Circle and probably 50, 100 yards away from Oak Ridge Turnpike. So it's a very busy corner, convenience stores, a bunch of stuff around there. The vision that we have for this is twofold. What this, that second cheaper quote, what we'll be able to do with that. We've got a camera system in place now, aging and doesn't cover everywhere that we would really like to cover. It covers most places. The new system would allow us to cover outdoor spaces as well as other indoor spaces that are not currently covered. The other thing of which we're really hopeful and excited for the opportunity potentially is for a new key system. Right now we are operating under the kind of old-fashioned system. Earlier this week we've got 80, 85 kids or so a day after school care is what we do. But unlike other Boys and Girls Clubs in the area, we also host youth sports. So the city of Oak Ridge does not really do that until they get to high school. So outside of soccer, if you play football, basketball, cheerleading, or baseball in Oak Ridge, it typically comes to the Boys and Girls Club. So while we serve 75 to 85 kids a day after school, when you look at the course of the year, kids, their siblings, through sports, we're I think over 1,200, I think, in 2023. So that all goes back to the key system. Earlier this week, I had to give a copy of our key that unlocked the gym to one of our board members that's heading up some basketball stuff. Stuff like that is obviously not ideal because there's no way for me to know that he didn't go and make a copy. The new system would be a badge system, so we would be able to keep doors locked 24/7, even when kids are in the building, even when we're walking in and out kids to parents, almost like this, a lot of the schools have, where they badge it in and unlocks them for that. If we did have to give out a badge to a coach, to a sports commissioner or something like that, we could issue a temporary one where they can't make a copy, and then obviously 10 hours from now, whatever, we can cut it off, things like that.
Commissioner Palmer.
And one more quick question. I think I heard you say you've never come before Anderson County and asked for money before. Have you ever gone to Roane County, or, because the majority of the students that you service are Oak Ridge and Roane County students, correct?
Oak Ridge students, we do have.
Or children, I guess.
Yeah, so Oak Ridge, to my knowledge, we do offer the ability for other kids, and especially with sports we do, but even after school care, that's an option. Like we had a call, I think at one point, the kid from the Norwood community was coming in. The majority of which definitely are Oak Ridge school students. I don't know of that populace how many are Oak Ridge versus Anderson County. The majority of which I would think live in Anderson County just because of where the club sits,
Okay.
Majority of Oak Ridge, but I don't know I don't know
It's
that.
unfair to ask you, I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so, no, and I apologize.
Okay.
I would love to have all the answers. Unfortunately, I just kind of have to plead ignorance on some stuff, and
Okay.
I don't mean that in a disrespectful way.
Thank you.
Commissioner Allen?
Yeah, that boys club is in my district,
Okay.
District 6. And when I came to Oak Ridge, 1979, that's where I coached, and that's where I kind of had my boys visiting there. I lived in the apartments that were behind the field there. There's some apartments back there. I live right over there. We could just jump the fence, okay, and get into the fields. I think that what I'm looking at is making sure it does get funding. I'm not sure about the level of it. I'm an advocate of, Oak Ridge is a very, very generous place. And I would like for Oak Ridge to, pony up more. I don't like when government chooses winners and losers. If there was another organization, maybe a pro-life organization or pro-choice, we'd be picking winners and losers in a political sense. But I do want to fund it. But if there's fundraisers, I've been involved with fundraising myself with other organizations, and we would do very, very well. Oak Ridge is a very, very generous place. And I'm quite sure if you asked me to help out, I would be glad to do that. So what level do we fund, do we pick winners and losers as a government? And that's my only concern. I will vote both ways. If this fails, I'll vote to fund it fully. But I do want to make sure that we as a community are not having the government come in and decide who gets a funding level and who doesn't get a funding level based on our own political, proclivities.
I understand, and
So-
yeah,
Yeah.
totally, as much as I can from where I'm sitting, grew up in the Boys and Girls Club in Oak
Yeah.
Ridge, and so I appreciate that.
So are you an Oak Ridger?
Yeah, I went to Robertsville, Linden,
Okay.
graduated in 2012. I will say, as far as hosting fundraisers, we do that year round. Probably,
Yeah.
we got a Christmas tree lot up that
Yep.
we're getting ready to set up. We probably do 5 to 7 throughout the year, and typically that goes back into, again, as a nonprofit, making the club run. We
How much would it take to raise $13 more thousand in Oak Ridge? Okay. I
It
mean,
is gonna say, it
it's-
depends on the events. I've been on the board for a few years, so I
Yeah.
know a little bit more than someone who just came in a couple months back, but I don't know everything. But, this Christmas tree lot, for instance, I think averages $5,000 or so, and that's probably a month and a half worth of work by the time you do all the funding and everything, and part of that's because Christmas trees have gone up. But it just
Sure.
depends on the type of event. But again, that's about a $5,000 profit is what we're hoping to make. So we do host events throughout the year, but this is an opportunity that we're hoping that we can. We've got a security system. We have keys to the door, but this is just an opportunity that we're really hoping that we can kind of move forward and take the next step as far as the kids' safety and securing that that's a place that is good moving forward in the future.
Yeah, well, I enjoy the boys club as I coached baseball, and as my kids kind of came up through that system. So I know what you're going through, but let's just see how the vote comes out, and I'm for either way, actually.
I appreciate
Commissioner
that.
Smallridge?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. You mentioned that you don't get any direct funding from Oak Ridge, from the city of Oak Ridge, is that correct?
Correct.
Any indirect support for utilities or anything like that?
To my knowledge, not to my knowledge, I don't want to misspeak. To my knowledge, no. That is for y'all, I don't want you guys to just think I'm coming here asking for money and then, never go to Oak Ridge for anything. I'm hoping to speak later this month to the city council meeting just to kind of introduce myself. And that is definitely something under my regime, if you want to say that. I definitely hope to improve that, because to my understanding, a lot of boys and girls clubs throughout the nation and the state do get funding from their local municipalities. It's not something that I don't think really ever had, but it's definitely something as an Oak Ridger all my life. You know, I pay taxes there. I pay taxes in Anderson County. You know, I want to improve that, and I know that there's a relationship there, not a strong one, but I know one of the council members, some people in the city, you know, grew up in the club as well. But to my knowledge, that's not been something. No.
I have a couple more
Yes, sir.
questions. Robbie, what's the total amount we have set in the budget for nonprofits?
We don't have a budget for nonprofits. It's more they come to the committee and then we appropriate the funds as needed
What, have we had
or approved.
a number of requests?
We've had probably
recently?
3. We've probably had 3 or 4, maybe. Tyler mentioned the American Legion posts. We paved their driveway or something. And, windows for, yes,
Child Advocacy Center.
child advocacy.
Well,
And
Okay,
I think Aaron worked the Oak Ridge,
Scarborough 85.
Scarborough 85. That was
come out
it.
of tourism, didn't it?
It did.
And we had,
That was
That's it, I think.
yeah.
we did that out of tourism. That was, I think that's the 3 that can remember right offhand. This year, this
To
fiscal year.
Commissioner Palmer's point, I think we may need some guideline or something in terms of amount. If someone comes to us and asks for 50,000 or 100,000, you know, I think we've got to keep the funding at a level that we can afford, especially
Well-
since it's not in the budget.
I agree, and we've had, a couple of commissioners have made a recommendation that we set aside some funds just for this, but then we have never done, we can't seem to agree on that, so we
I
don't
think
have a
maybe
budget.
what he's referring to is capping what we get.
Yeah, well, that would
That's been
be,
talked about as well.
But I
Sir?
do, then on the other hand, I do think this project is kind of special, and, you know, it's a safety thing. I certainly feel like it can be justified
What I
very
would like
well.
to mention too, the county does utilize, my son plays sports, and we play Oak Ridge and Boys at their facilities quite often. So I do want to, I mean, the county does utilize those facilities and those services on a regular basis. So,
Any further discussion?
I just want to clarify, these are coming out of ARPA funds. These are not coming out of general
No,
funds.
it was
like-
recommended.
Like nonprofits.
Yes.
How much ARPA we got left after today?
I'm gonna have to do that math in the head. We spent 100, well, no, that 100 was already spent. We spent 104, 268, 100 and, what, 44, plus the 16 in interest, 150, 60, 160,000 or so. If we spend this 25, we're down to 140.
and nonprofit approved this, what, 3 months ago?
Do what now?
Nonprofit approved this 3 months ago.
Yes, I mean, I've had this on the agenda for the last 3 months.
It's been deferred twice.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. Number one, just for the record, Commissioner White warned us this day was coming. He told us that if we reinstated the nonprofit committee, that this is what was gonna happen. Exactly what Commissioner Smallridge brought up, that back in the old days, when you set a certain amount in the budget and said, come one, come all, until it's all gone, we had them all line up. At that time, if Commissioner White can correct me if I'm wrong, we did set limits on how much we gave each request that they came up, and that was a good way to make sure everybody got an equal share. We decided not to do that this go around when we reformed the nonprofit committee. Commissioner Yeager wrote up an excellent policy and procedure with the help of the finance department to do that. Having said that, I think we have been consistent with the dollar amount that we have given each group. None of them was $25,000. Commissioner Mays is correct. The nonprofit committee did approve this, and I think that was, what, 3 or 4 months ago. When that occurred, the debate also included, weren't we supposed to be the last money in? In other words, did you go to Oak Ridge? Did you go to Roane County? Did you try to raise funds tell us how much you could get first, and then we'll put in what you have left. From what I'm hearing today, I'm not saying it's your fault, but what I'm hearing today, you all still haven't went to Oak Ridge or Roane County or anywhere else to try to get some of this 25,000, and then we were gonna contribute.
To my knowledge, correct.
Okay, so when I came in here today and saw that on the agenda, I'll say my vote was going to be a no on this. However, I'm certainly happy with Commissioner Palmer's amendment to that, to make that $10,000. I do believe that is a more reasonable amount for our contribution. I'll certainly be a yes vote on that. If that amendment does fail, then I'll be probably going back to a no vote on the original motion for the 25,000. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification
Yes.
on, with us having 7, we still need 5 within the
That's correct.
statutory committee.
Yes, sir, that's
Thank you.
correct. Any further discussion? The motion is for the amendment to reduce the amount to $10,000. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
No.
So all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the motion fails. So we are back on the original motion of the 25,000. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. No. Raise your hand for the ayes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion passes.
Thank you guys so much.
Any other unfinished business?
Who with the nose? You and Anthony, you were no, right?
I voted for the 25,000.
You did.
Yes.
I was a no.
Me,
Okay.
yeah.
It was 5 to 2
So 2 no's on it?
on the, yeah.
Oh, that's right, we only got 7 here, sorry. I was thinking 8. That's all I have, Shane.
Anything else coming before the committee? Hearing none, we are adjourned.